the existing infrastructure system. That starts down by the roadway intersection at the access road into the site here. It traverses in a right to left flow, direction, and then discharges into an existing infiltration basin at the back of the existing, building there. There are, good soils on the site there, and we are basically using, what has, been there, previously. Because of this redevelopment, we are reducing the amount of impervious area on the site by a little over of 5,000 square feet, approximately 9% of what was there, previously, between the building, walkways, and parking, and former building slabs and things of that nature. All of those areas are, will be occupied either by the new building, or will be moved and seeded, for future use, or for the use of the site there. So our drainage is very minimal. We do have, as I mentioned, deep sump-putted catch basins that will tie into the existing, system.
So I think that covers it in terms of an overview of the project. At this point, we'd open it up to you guys for any questions that you might have on the application materials that we've submitted, and we can go from there.
Hey, thank you. First, do we have would Joe like to present Lucas's review?
So Lucas didn't do a review on this because it's just a stormwater permit. So Fuss and O'Neill did provide a comment letter, and really the only outstanding comment was the TSS removal and not meeting that qualification.
Right, if I could address that, to the board, as part of the stormwater report that we prepared, we did not include the existing infiltration basin. We will submit a revised stormwater report that includes that infiltration basin. And once the added basin is included into our pre-treatment train, we will be greater than 80% TSS removal for the project.
In the treatment train depiction and calcs are going to be within the report, and we can just take a quick look to verify that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So now I'll turn it over to the commissioners. Anybody in the commission have any questions, comments, or concerns?
Just a minor question. On this drawing that we're looking at right now, we see the limit of work. What caught my eye immediately is on the first frame, the limit of work seems to go outside the property line. If you go back to the first, all the way back. There you go. Oh, no, not that one. Next one. Sorry, that's not that. You see, it goes out, but that's not true. The limit of work is shown on the other.
Correct. Yeah, I apologize. This is just graphically to draw your eye to the fact that this is where the site is. The limit of work is contained, as Bill mentioned in his plan, to the property line. We're not going over the property line with the project.
Because that's the first thing I saw when I looked at that. So that's all.
I had the same thought, Carl, and then I thought, I think that's just like a.
Yeah, that's just a. That's not the limit of work. That's just a box.
That's a box, right?
Get the limit of work thing off there, because that would be fine. Yeah, minor thing, but it was a, yeah.
Correct. This bold dash line here with the small dots, that is the limit of work, based on the proposed grading and the improvements on the site there for any utility infrastructure improvements, for a sewer connection or electrical connections, things of that nature.
Anybody else on the commission wishes to offer comments or questions?
Just a question. I mean, do you think if you revise the calculations and include the additional stormwater treatment, you'll be able to meet the TSS requirements?
Yes.
Oh, good. All right.
Yes, the infiltration basin, out and back there is a, it's good sandy gravelly material. So, it will meet or exceed that 80% TSS removal. And I also believe in the Fuss O'Neill report, it was also mentioned about the total phosphorus, being at 50%. And because of that basin, it'll actually be between 60 and 70%.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so the excavation associated with the project is limited mainly to the addition that's being put on, to the construction work associated directly with that. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, well, everything that you see here is associated with the new building. We do need to install new sewer line, connecting to an existing system that's located in the driveway to the right of the sheet there. We do have a new fire cistern, tank, just because of the low flow, up in this area for fire supports, and that's along the front of the site there. And then we have connections for electrical for the building's needs.
I may have missed it going through the plan set. I didn't come across specifically an erosion and sedimentation control plan or anything like that. Did I miss it going through the packet?
Yes, it was on the previous sheet, the demolition and erosion
Okay.
control.
Thank you.
Where we have,
Yep.
we do have some, construction fence, around, the area there. We have a stabilized stone construction entrance to
Yep.
remove any sediment, from, and then we have hay bales and silt fence around the perimeter of the site.
Okay.
And then in any existing catch basins, we are proposing an erosion control device such as a silt sack or things of that nature within the limit of work of the property.
Okay. Okay, I don't see a designated stockpile area, but I think our standard conditions will probably address that adequately.
I think it says the stockpiling, it needs to be outside the buffer in the control plan.
Right, well, there is no, we're not within any buffer zone, for
Right.
this project site there. But I would imagine that any stockpiling that we have just for the construction of the building and the installation of the utilities, much of that soil stockpiling area would be to the southwesterly corner or side of the site, down towards the bottom of the page.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Anything further from the commission? Okay, so at this point, I'd like to ask the public for any questions, comments, or concerns. If you wish to speak, please use the raise hand function and Melissa will promote you up.
I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay, so it sounds like we have some updates to do. So I think at this point, we'd be looking to continue to the next hearing after we receive those updates to conduct our vote. Would anyone like to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Melissa.
Watson,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Fryer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too. Okay, next up. Notice of intent, 15 Woodland Road. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, November 18th, 2021 at 7:15 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 15 Woodland Road, map 38, lot 14, for the applicant Hamid Atami. The project description is construction of a new single-family home. Hey, is there anyone here? Oh, I see Mr. Hatami is here, and Vito, you're here to present the project?
Yes, good evening. Vito Colonna, Cornerstone Engineering. So I'll just share my screen quick. Okay, so here we are. So we're looking at 15 Woodland Road. It's this lot right here. We're just south of Turnpike Road, Route 9 down here. You just come down a little bit and here is 15 Woodland Road. It's a 1.6 acre lot. It's currently vacant right now, and there are wetlands located both off to the rear in this area and also across Woodland Road over in here. I just wanted to show you this on the GIS first because the lot was previously developed. There's a single family house right here with some outbuildings and a driveway that used to come up through here. All that stuff had been removed around 2007, 2008, somewhere in that range. And it's now currently vacant and kind of revegetated all through there. Some of it is invasives. There's some Japanese knotweed that's kind of taken over the area. So as far as the wetlands themselves, there's one off to the rear. There's a BVW off to the rear here. And then off to this side of Woodland, there's a BVW and a perennial stream. Let's see, zoom out just a little. So the perennial stream kind of runs off the page, kind of over in here. And the riverfront area clips the front portion of the lot. And also that 100-foot buffer zone to the wetland encompasses that front portion of the lot. So we basically kind of sandwiched in the middle with the work area. So the proposal is for a new single family house. We have a driveway coming up off Woodland Road and a septic area to the rear of the site. We've kept all the work out of that rear buffer zone, so we don't have to kind of worry about that one in the back. And then on the front half, we really didn't have much of a choice since that whole riverfront kind of crosses the whole front. So we did have to cross that with the driveway to get access to the lot. So we have the driveway coming up, underground electric, and also the water service connection that come up through here. So that would be the work within the riverfront area in the buffer zone. There's about 2720 square feet of disturbance in the riverfront and 1440 of the buffer zone. And we're about 70 feet at our closest point between here and the wetland, and Woodland Road separates the work from that. These lots are older lots. They were 2 parcels. Then they were joined together at one point in time. They were held in a common ownership. And then at some point, maybe around, I think it was in the 80s, one parcel was sold off. And then recently they became under one common ownership again. So the lots themselves are older. One of them is from 1919 and the other one, I traced it back through the 70s and kind of stopped there. So they're both kind of older lots that have pre-existed. We did get comments back from Lucas Environmental the other day. I think we got them 2 days ago or so. So we did go through those and we did supply a response to those with some updates on the plan. And essentially on the plan itself, the main revision was adding some provisions. They recommended some infiltration of the driveway that goes through the riverfront area. So we had an infiltration trench just along this edge. We extended it beyond the riverfront area. Just it seemed to make sense to capture this whole straight section as it went down. And we sized that for a 1-inch storm. It has a little extra beyond that, but it's just about a little bit over a 1-inch storm. I guess the only other item really was to talk about was the disturbance area. We're at 33,000, which is a little under half the lot area. And we ringed that with erosion barriers. There'd be silt fence and straw wattles. We could go through all of Lucas's comments. I don't know if we want to go questions first, or we can kind of go through those. I don't know what the commission prefers.
I think it might be helpful to have Joe present Lucas's comments. He may have had the time to look over your responses, and I think that may speed things along.
Okay,
if
that's
you wouldn't
great.
mind, Joe.
Yep, hello. As far as my comments, I think the main comments were with respect to an adjustment to the BBW delineation, connecting between flags GC2 and GC5 in this area, which has been done on the revised plan. And the buffer zone has been adjusted for that. Another comment was that I was not able to locate all of the riverfront flags. I only located one mean high water flag, and the flag numbers were not labeled on the plan, so I didn't know where I was with respect to the site. But those labels have been added. I found flag bank flag 11 as shown on the plan.
Yeah, the wetland over there is almost impassable.
Yeah, it was very, very thick vegetation. So
yeah, this is
in the response.
This is it. Let me go back one. Yeah, this is where you'd have to walk through to get to them. One flag you can see right there, way in there. I didn't expect anyone to get through that stuff to get down in there.
And then one of the other comments with regard to the significant growth of Japanese knotweed on the site, and recommending that a construction phase management plan for the Japanese knotweed be considered, so as not to spread either plant propagules or contaminated soil either further on the site or off site.
On that, we just put a basic note on the plan. I don't know if you might need something in more detail that, maybe we could submit, have the wetland consultant provide, prior to construction or something. We just basically said if any are removed, they'd be disposed of off-site. I don't know if you're looking for something a little bit more.
Yeah, I would recommend something more detailed than that regarding how the plants will be dealt with and how any of the contaminated soil would be dealt with.
Okay. I could have our wetland consultant, they could probably put something together. I don't know if that's something they could do just prior to construction or not.
Okay, we could, with the consent of the commission, we could presumably have a condition requiring that be submitted to Melissa sometime prior to construction, and it be subject to her approval if the commission agrees with something like that. Joe, is that's a summary of all of your comments? I don't mean to cut you off.
Those are the highlights. I mean, if you want all of the comments.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Okay,
yeah. Okay. It sounds like with that one notable exception, most of your concerns have been adequately addressed. Is that a fair summary?
That's a fair summary, yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open it to the commission. Does anyone have any questions or comments they'd like to make? Carl.
Knotweed, which you said is on a lot, much of the lot, right? If you go after that, you'll probably go outside of your limit of work, right?
That was going to be one of the questions, is how far do you chase it? I know there's some up in this front area that's outside the limit of work, and there's some down in here. There is some up inside, where you can see where this previously was cleared. So some of that has it, but I know that there is some down in this corner and there's some right up in this front corner too.
Yeah,
That was kind of the question, is how far do you want to chase that?
But you've nicely made it underneath the stormwater requirement, right?
Right.
50%.
Yeah.
So if you go outside the limit of work chasing the knotweed and cause disturbance, you'll probably go over the 50%, right?
Right. And I don't know if there's a way to treat that where it isn't, pulling up all the roots and causing disturbance, or if that would have to count towards land disturbance. Is there a herbicide that the commission doesn't, is in favor of that can be used within the buffer? I'm not sure.
Through the chair, if I may comment.
Please do.
Yeah, my comment was primarily with respect to the defined construction area. I wasn't necessarily saying that they should be chasing the knotweed all over the site, although certainly that could be proposed. My concern was with any knotweed within the proposed area to be disturbed, and how that would be dealt with.
Yeah, so we don't, use that and spread it all over everywhere else. We want to manage that.
Or you want to leave well enough alone. Well, even though it isn't well, leave it alone.
Yep. Yeah, something that we've wrestled with a little bit, trying to find a way to make it easier for people to get rid of knotweed without having to have them come before us with a big burdensome filing. It's we haven't quite sorted that one out yet.
Yeah.
Any other commissioners who wish to speak on this?
I have one other question. I probably should know the answer to this, but I don't. When I looked at the application, I see that the applicant and the owner are two different people, and that the applicant signed the order, right? So my question is, who is ultimately responsible for this? I probably know the answer to this, but I don't.
Yeah, it runs with the property owner, and he has the option. He's going to buy the property if all the permits go through. So it usually happens a lot where there's a condition with the purchase and sale that all the permits get approved first before they close. So once everything gets closed on, everything gets approved, then Hamid will close on the property and become the new owner. And then it would be his responsibility. So it always runs with the property owner.
Yeah, that's my understanding. It's the property owner is responsible.
Yeah.
But he didn't sign the permit.
I thought he'd.
All three signed.
Yeah.
They all signed.
Yeah. Oh.
I think there might have been an additional sheet that was very small. Yeah, I have the signatures.
Okay. I just didn't see, because I was looking at the signatures. I didn't see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's another page. So the property owner did sign this.
Okay. All right. I just didn't see that. All right.
Hey, any other commissioners who wish to speak?
I have a couple of questions, Ben.
Yes, please.
One, did you call out stockpiles? Did I miss that while we were talking, Joe? Either Joe or Vito, where you would be stockpiling?
We didn't call it out on there, but it would all be within the limit of work. When we're doing the septic, you'll probably be stockpiling kind of up in here. When they do the foundation, it would most likely be right in the front here, and then some in the back right in here.
Okay.
Those would be the primary times when it'd be stockpiling. It's just during those two operations.
So, and maybe it's just because of the way the line goes. The erosion control looks like it stops. Does it not stop? And it's just because the black line's thicker on the limit of work?
It did stop there just because this is the high point on the lot. So everything flows in this direction. So we have a cut. It's tough to see on the scale.
Okay.
So it goes down, this is the high point right here. So we just felt everything, was going to be graded down the other way, away from this.
I could see that now. I was thinking the other way in my head. And then the other thing I'm just curious about, the driveway. So we're trying to minimize the limit of disturbance in the riverfront area. Do you need to have that driveway bend that way specifically? Couldn't it go from like elevation 210 on the line and go straight across? And you'd have it'd be a more direct route, because when I measured out, it would be like 20 feet versus 40 feet of disturbance in that area. Yeah,
we did look at that, and just the option. I think the owner liked this route, and also there's a stone wall right along the frontage,
Okay.
right in here. So we were kind of just trying to curve it right around that.
It was trying to keep the stone wall.
Yeah, we're just, it ends basically kind of right in here. There's a couple leftover stones too. So we fit it between, there's a telephone pole and the end of the stone wall. We kind of just fit it between the two.
Okay. I can
But
understand.
if it were straight, we could go through the wall, but it would be less disturbance technically in the riverfront.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Anybody else on the commission?
Just one question. What's the expected timeline for starting work on this? Is it going to be next spring or this year?
Ideally, they'd like to get going foundations sometime December even. They'd like to get the foundation work done before it gets too cold, to try to get started all the framing getting going. So they're looking to get going at least the foundation very soon.
Okay. And so, that's always then leads to the question of kind of holding snow. Where would the snow be piled?
Pushed around and piled, most likely just out in the back here, because they wouldn't have any of their other, they wouldn't be installing, say, the septic and everything yet. So they'd have all this room out in the back to be able to push all that too. So, they wouldn't be doing all the other earthwork associated. They just want to get that foundation in to get the house started.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Judith. Anybody else?
Yes, I'm not seeing anything calling out for a construction entrance. And if we're going into building this in the winter,
Yep.
are we going to rough in that actual driveway for the winter?
No, you are right. We did not add one on there. We should have a construction entrance. So that should be a provision in there. I don't know if we have just a note, at least something to call it out. It might even be just in the notes, but there should be, they would have a temporary construction entrance just off Woodland Road.
Right, and if you're going to be building it over the winter, I would highly suggest going ahead and just getting that driveway pretty much done, short of pavement.
Yeah, they'd probably bring in some gravel, get that stabilized, because otherwise it'll turn to mush. Try and drive over the.
And I'll have to make a point of driving home that way to just look.
Yep.
No, I'd absolutely have a muck pad put in there because Woodland Road is highly traveled there, especially coming off of Route 9. I wouldn't want to be tracking all the mud from the site into that road.
Thank you.
Wise man for that attitude. That's great.
Okay, anybody else on the commission? So at this point, I'll open it up to the public. If there's anybody who wishes to ask a question or make a comment, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and Melissa will promote you up. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone.
Me neither.
Okay, so I'm curious how the rest of the commission feels. I suspect we can handle the a couple of comments through conditions. I think for the construction entrance, we might want to be a little specific about the extent and dimensions of it, just so that we're all on the same page. I'm curious if other people feel that it would be appropriate to handle that through a condition, or would you like to see the plans revised?
I think we can handle that in writing.
Yeah.
Um,
Can Melissa just read back the, is that possible, Melissa, that you could tell us what those conditions would be? So we just get a quick update.
So the two that I've picked out was the construction entrance and the invasive species management plan to be submitted prior to construction.
And Melissa, have you put together a draft? You have, okay. Okay. So with that being the case, I think we're in a position to close the hearing. If somebody would like to make a motion to that effect, and then we would conduct the vote to issue an approval and conditions at the end of our meeting this evening. But for the time being, would somebody like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
For a second,
Second.
Melissa?
Watson,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much. And as I said, we'll do the vote to issue an approval and conditions and so forth as we've discussed here. We'll do that at the end of our meeting tonight so that we can sort of attack the rest of our agenda in the interim.
All
Thank
right,
you very
great.
much for coming in.
Thank you for your time.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you too. Okay, next up. Request for determination of applicability, Southville Road for the MBTA. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, November 18th, 2021 at 7:25 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. And the commission will consider a request for determination for a project on MBTA property located on Southville Road, map 4, lot 41 for the applicant MBTA. The project description is conducting subsurface exploratory borings on Porterville Dam and associated work. I see Mr. Murphy, you're here this evening to present the project.
I am. I'm sorry to bother Melissa with this, but my environmental lead's computer crashed. And if you could provide me the meeting passcode, that'd be appreciated. She's going to need access from her.
Oh, sure. Yes. The password is 634417.
Fantastic. Thank you. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and jump into this and let Maggie join me in a moment. And start with just a general map briefly to provide some context on location. This dam is located what we'll call for purposes of this discussion on the easterly side of the Sudbury River Reservoir, just southwest of the MBTA train station, the parking lot, excuse me, for the MBTA train station there. So now I'll switch over to our presentation to showcase that. Go to screen 1 and F5 this down. Is everyone able to see a full screen presentation versus the presenter window?
Yes.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. So we're going to run through a very quick set of slides to kind of talk about the project overview, which I'll run through with you, the proposed work, and then I'll hand it to Maggie to talk about the compliance. And we'll also be able to discuss Mr. Rozell's comments as well, which we received on Tuesday. So briefly, we are performing an engineering study, what's called a phase 2 study on the dam. And again, for purposes of our conversation, we'll call the dam at the east side of the reservoir, and the parking lot will be the north end of the dam. And as you can see on the image of the right, those are the approximate limits of the dam. We're doing this as part of maintaining the MBTA's infrastructure, as well as to be in accordance with the Office of Dam Safety regulations for dam maintenance. The overall study is going to do an assessment of what the future needs are at the dam for assessing various types of repairs that may be required over the long term. We're here today to specifically talk about the subsurface exploration that we're going to do to get the information we need to perform a series of engineering analyses to assess the safety, stability, and such of the dam. And the work we're going to be performing is comprised of taking one boring within the Southborough town limits at the north end of the dam. And if you're able to see my mouse, it's circling this red arrow, which will be the boring we'll be taking. That will be drilled through an existing concrete structure that is a spillway for the dam. And then to get access to this waterway, because there's thick brush and a series of large boulders here, we'll need to clear a limited area from the MBTA parking lot to the pond, where we'll install a built-up cube barge, which is essentially a barge that's built up of multiple interconnected pieces, and float a small drill rig over to this location and drill it from the waterway. We did note in our initial consultation with Melissa and Mr. Rosell that there were challenges associated with the inland bank. So we proposed placing plywood at the edge of the waterway for the last several feet to, press down as opposed to completely clearing vegetation in that area. And Mr. Rosell also provided the good comment of, certainly while our limits shown here are approximate, we would clear a path that would avoid removal of any larger trees. We would aim just to remove small brush. And I believe the comment was that path would be located slightly south of where it's shown. And we certainly would anticipate going that route again, because we certainly don't want to be removing trees either. I think that summarized generally the work we'd be looking to do. The path, we gave a width of 10 to 12 feet. That is the maximum. Frankly, I think it may be slightly narrower than that, but we want to make sure that we're not going to exceed any numbers we provide to you folks. So just to give a few close-up shots, on the left-hand photo, this is the concrete structure we'll be drilling through. It's a concrete slab at the top of the waterway, and then there's also a concrete slab down at the base of the dam. So both top and bottom, we would be drilling into concrete, and we would be accessing again through the MBTA parking lot. Shown on the right here is an area within the access limits, showing generally where we would be trying to approach the pond from. Briefly, just about the equipment we're using for drilling. We were drilling a 4 up to 5 inch hole max diameter hole with the portable drill rig. This would be wheeled over to the barge and floated in. We're planning to go to a depth of 40 feet. It may be shallower than that, depending on where we strike bedrock. And of course, any fluids associated with the drill rig that we would collect and dispose of off-site and not be disposed of on-site. I don't know if Maggie's had a chance to join us yet.
I'm here. I had to call
right.
and I have some computer issues. Hello,
No
everyone.
So, and I gave them an update on the computer issues, and thank you for flexing and being with us, Maggie. I don't know if you're able to see the screen, but I am.
Oh yeah. I got a
Okay.
smartphone. I'm all set. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Let me tell you a little bit about the wetland resource areas. I did a couple of site visits, and we delineated the limit of the inland bank on the upstream impoundment, and we determined that there's no bordering vegetated wetlands along the upstream impoundment nor downstream of the spillway. So we also flagged the ordinary high water mark along the Sudbury River on the downstream side of the spillway. And as we don't have the survey back yet, so we just marked up this aerial, and you can see the limits, approximate limits of the riverfront, the 100-foot and 200-foot riverfront area. And there's also bordering land subject to flooding on the site. It extends up to elevation 256 feet. So in order to, the only impact that we're having to the wetland resource area is really just from the access, from clearing some minor vegetation just to get access to the upstream impoundment. And then of course, the boring itself will be some, temporary disturbance to land underwater, just like below that concrete structure, until the drill head hits the, the bottom of the spillway, so to speak.
And I do want to jump in here, Megan, just add one point that the bottom of the waterway that we're drilling into is concrete. We're not drilling into any kind of natural riverbed.
Right, correct. And I was looking at Mr. Lucas's comments, and I think the only one that he that we had to address, which we haven't provided in writing. So I figure we do it verbally at the hearing tonight. So if you want to go to the next slide. Mr. Lucas, he wanted to know whether there was going to be any permanent impacts to bordering land subject to flooding. And I just provided this slide with the performance standards for work in BLSF. And, you know, one of them is compensatory storage has to be provided for all flood storage volume that will be lost. And since we're not doing any excavation, the only disturbance in BLSF is from, you know, minor clearing of vegetation. And so that's not applicable. And then also work within BLSF cannot restrict flows as to cause an increase in flood stage or velocity. Again, you know, this boring is just temporary, everything, you know, it's a temporary nature, so that's not applicable. And the same thing is work cannot impair the capacity of BLSF to provide significant wildlife habitat. Again, same answer, you know, the geotechnical boring work is temporary in nature, so there'll be no long-term impact. So the answer is there will be no permanent impacts to BLSF. So hopefully that will satisfy Mr. Lucas. And I guess we open it up to questions.
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions or comments they'd like to offer? I think I have just a couple of quick questions regarding now you said the drilling fluids would be collected and disposed of off-site. Am I correct in saying that all spoils associated with the boring will be suspended within the drilling fluid?
Yes, sorry, took me a second to process.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't think of a better way to say it, but all the stone and dirt or whatever that comes up.
Yeah, it would be brought up and yeah.
Okay.
Into a sedimentation
Basically a
tank.
slurry, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
There would be a sedimentation tank on the barge and it would be dropped into that and settled out and disposed of.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yep, and the fluid itself is water, is that correct?
It typically is water. There are biodegradable fluids that can be used on these sites. Frankly, we can use water if needed, but we would like to have the option of either using a biodegradable fluid or water.
Okay.
I have another question.
Go right ahead, Carl.
If the biodegradable fluid, will you take that off-site afterwards? But that won't go into the
Yes,
river, right?
yeah, right, that would not go in the river, correct.
Nothing goes into the river, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I know that was an obvious question, but just had to
No,
ask.
no, it's a good one, yeah, certainly.
Okay. The biodegradable one, I'm just worried that some, you know, I think it's impossible to prevent some small amount of it from escaping at some point during the boring. You know, even if it's just the tiniest amount. Is the biodegradable one, is it oily in nature? Is it something that will make a sheen on the water, or?
It should not. If there's any concerns there, we can go. Yeah, it should not. No. You know, if there's any concerns there, we can go back to water. If you know, we talk with our subcontractor and there's any concerns there, we can certainly say if there's any kind of sheen issues, use water. No,
just asking the question. You know, I don't want to you know, impose any kind of, you know, burdensome expense on you. It just I'm not familiar, you know, with the details of this, so I just want to sort of get it clear in my own mind.
Understood.
Any further questions or comments from the commission?
Ben, I have a few. The area where you're proposing to cut the vegetation, you couldn't do that more southerly to the lot to get closer to the, from like plot corner to B3?
Plot corner. So no, there we actually do intend on moving south from where we're showing. Again, Joe had provided that comment about shifting it to go an area where there was no trees, and we certainly intend to do that. But that far corner there are large boulders that frankly would either require ground disturbance or frankly pose safety hazards on hauling equipment through there.
Okay.
With northerly of, there actually is an existing path northerly of where the site is, but again, boulders cause a substantial safety concern and would probably require ground disturbance and substantial ground disturbance to make that area work.
Okay. My second question is, do you guys propose any sort of plantings after the fact to reestablish the vegetation?
We do not propose plantings after the fact.
Okay. And what's the biggest size vegetation you're removing up there?
It's
I can speak to that if you want.
diameter.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
they're
Maggie.
they're pretty small. They're like probably about 8 to 10 foot shrubs, I would say. So, okay, maybe about 2 inches or so.
And are you just cutting them
Maximum.
down or are you digging them out?
No, we're just cutting them down. We're not removing any roots.
Okay. Okay.
So I mean, it would be no grading or anything like that. It's basically just so they can carry in the equipment, in a safe manner without tripping, falling.
Okay. And then you guys made a note that you're not subject to the local bylaw. Where did you reference that from? Because the reference you have is for the Endangered Species Act, not actually.
There may have been a typo in there then. There is Mass General Law that does exempt state organizations such as the MTA from local bylaws, and they must apply to the state laws apply. I don't know, Tess, if you have any specific information on which law that is. If it's the Endangered Species Act, it may have been a typo on the document we sent along.
Yeah, I'm not sure what reference was sent, but I can certainly provide the documentation that we have that exempts us from local bylaws.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the commission? Okay, so I'll turn it over to the public. If there's anyone who wishes to make a comment or ask a question, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and Melissa will promote you up. And I'm not seeing anybody.
Neither.
The drill rig is gas powered, or what powers the drill?
Let me go back to the model. I think that model is, I would have to double check that, but I believe it is, yes.
Oh, I mean, I assume they're very good at, refilling the gas without spilling
Yes.
any in the, but is there some secondary containment or something around it to make sure if there's, some spillage that it doesn't go into the water?
Typically not. It would be, because it would be, something like a gas can would be used. So that risk would be pretty low. We could, yeah, I mean, that's not something typically that would be done. If there's a significant concern there, we can, think about a mitigation. I would be, I would have safety concerns about putting mats down on a cube barge. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but they're kind of ribbed surfaces. So we wouldn't want to do any kind of, wide mat type containment, but we could come up with a mitigation measure like, having a small catch container during refueling or something like that.
And the barge would catch any minor spills as well.
Right.
Because it's being
Very true.
refueled on the barge, so that'll contain anything that accidentally spills out from the can.
So they have these really cool oil absorbent towels out on the market now.
Yes, actually, we have some, so we can provide
They're
those.
awesome.
Yeah, we buy those in bulk.
That would
We
be
can-
great if you could have something like that on site. I'll tell you, typically, with a site subject to a NIPD's permit,
Yeah, absolutely. Those are
our standard conditions. You can't do any refueling even within a buffer zone, never mind when you're actually on top of the resource area. So having that type of protection on hand, I
absolutely.
think, okay.
Yeah, we have those on site all the time. So
Okay.
we can absolutely have that written in and provide that.
Great. Anything else from the commission before I go asking for a motion? Okay, so at this point, we'll be looking for a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability conditioned as discussed. Somebody care to do the honors?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Melissa.
Watson,
Yes.
Pete.
Yep.
Guyer,
Yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in this evening.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it. And have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, 21 Southville Road. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, November 18, 2021 at 7:35 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a request for determination for a project located at 21 Southville Road, map 5, lot 16, for the applicant Linda and David Schaefer. The project description is a septic system replacement. Do we have someone here representing the applicant?
Dan McIntyre representing the homeowners.
Good evening.
I'm sharing my screen, but I'm not sure what's coming up because I don't see it on my end.
We just see ourselves again.
We see your copy of Zoom.
Okay. How about now?
Perfect.
Okay. So the homeowners of 21 Southville are readying their house for a sale in the future, and they need to replace their septic system. Just oriented you, Southville Road is at the bottom of the screen. You have a driveway coming in here. The house is kind of in the middle of the lot. The existing septic system is in the front yard. It's these two leaching trenches right here. An existing septic tank off to the side. The plumbing comes out of the side of the house. We're proposing to replace the septic tank in the same location to match up with the plumbing and replace the septic system in the front yard with a leaching bed. We had Goddard Consulting take a look at the lot. They did delineate some wetlands at the rear of the lot back here. And the septic system, leach field area itself would be outside the 100-foot buffer. The tank obviously would be within the 100-foot buffer. We are proposing some erosion controls right along here for the construction. And then there's also a stockade fence coming along the side property line and along the front as well. So that's a fairly quick summary of the work. I could open up to questions now.
Thank you. Anybody on the commission with questions or comments? Carl.
on the erosion control, let's see, if I read this correctly, the land does slope away from where the tank is, right? Wouldn't that be better to just bring that erosion control out some more to make sure that you don't get any running down the hill? Am I reading that correctly?
Well, we're putting it essentially at the top of the slope. We could put it at the bottom of the slope, but we're trying to keep the limit of work tight for the contractor so he doesn't wander too far.
Yeah, well, instead of hooking it, can you just continue around the slope some more? I mean,
it'd be along the base of the fence.
Yeah.
Heading southwards if the plan is north oriented.
Is there a fence in there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a stockade fence right along here.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we're running it over to the fence and stopping it there.
Can you run it along the fence?
I don't see why we couldn't.
Yeah, because it does slope away in that direction, right?
It does, but we would have to get through the fence first.
Yeah. Well, the fence, well, I don't know if with the fence being an efficient road.
Well, why don't we just, we could continue it up along the base of the fence if you'd like.
Yeah, I would like, that would be nice.
Okay.
Just so it doesn't go under it, I don't
Sure.
know. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And to clarify, we're talking about extending it up to, again, if the plan is north oriented, extending it to the southern edge, opposite the southern edge of the leach field, the proposed leach field.
Yeah.
Down in somewhere
Yes.
in here.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else with questions, comments, or concerns?
There's a number of comments in the Lucas review.
Oh, my apologies. My first request should have been to Joe to go through Lucas's comments. Would you mind?
Yeah, I had a couple of comments. In general, I thought the delineation was pretty accurate. I had a few questions on some of the vegetation and soil descriptions in the plot data forms around flag number 2, but I don't think it would result in any change in the actual flag location. However, in the area of between flag GC6 and GC9, where the wetland bumps to the north there, that area to me appears to be essentially a leaf dump in the wetland. And my recommendation would be that the flag, that the delineation go from flag 6 to flag 9, and probably would recommend that those leaves be removed by hand from the actual wetland area. I did also note a garden hose from the pool to the wetland. There was no flow observed, but I don't know if it had been being used to drain the pool or not.
I was able to talk to the homeowner on both those points. The pool hose was to drain the rainwater off the cover of the pool.
Okay.
And there are some leaves throughout this area, and they could take some of those out and spread that out somewhere else.
Yeah, I put an auger down through there. It looked like it was, a good 12 inches of compacted leaves sitting on top of the hydric soil. They'd probably been, dumped there for a long time. And another comment was just regarding the erosion control. The detail shows a stake going through the wattle, and would recommend the stake be placed outside the wattle to maintain the wattle integrity.
Down in here?
Yes.
We could certainly do that.
I'm sorry, Joe, can you repeat that? You want the stake behind the straw wattle?
Rather than through the wattle to maintain their integrity.
Okay.
They need to definitely be staked to be effective. Whether it goes behind the wattle or through the wattle is kind of site specific or application specific. We've done both. In this particular case, where it's relatively flat in this tank area, we put it through the wattle. If it was on a steep slope of the kind, we would put it behind the wattle. Or probably not specify a wattle at all in that case, but we'll do whatever the commission thinks is best.
One of the other comments I had was in reviewing the documents submitted. The text under section 4.2 of the project narrative stated the closest disturbance is feet, but didn't actually provide the number, which is indicating that that probably should be provided as far as the distance from the wetland.
Yes, it's 65 feet from the erosion controls to GC5.
Okay.
We've corrected that and resubmitted it to Melissa this afternoon.
All right.
As well as the where we erroneously said the town of Sherburne instead of the town of Southborough.
I think that addresses all my comments.
Thank you very much, Joe. Yeah, with this being in RDA, we can condition certainly our decision on the removal of the leaves. We don't have as much authority sort of moving forward as we would with a notice of intent with an ongoing condition. But I think we need to make just the owner aware that there is a 20-foot no-touch zone, and that leaves can't be, not only can leaves not be disposed in the wetland, but also within the 20-foot no-touch zone. Any further questions or comments from the commission? Okay, so I'll turn it over to the public. If there's anyone in attendance who would like to speak on this matter, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and Melissa will promote you up. Okay, and I'm not seeing anyone. So Melissa, you have received the updated plans. The only plan change we would have to handle through a condition would be the method of placement of the straw wattles. We're already addressing the location of the straw wattles. I think in that condition, we could also take care of the installation method. We've also talked about conditioning and on removal of the leaves within the wetland. Having heard what Joe said about the likely location of the wetland going from flag 6 to flag 9 would change the 100-foot buffer a little bit, but I don't think would change the work before us this evening in any material way. So I don't think it's necessary to sort of chase that one down.
Yeah,
with
I
all
think
that,
the offset from GC6 and GC9 really controls anyways.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
but we didn't check off the box on the RDA that we're looking for a formal acceptance of this line. So.
Yep. So with all that being said, I've gone through I believe, Melissa, I captured all the conditions that were discussed, correct?
Yep, extending the erosion controls and how they're installed, the leaf dump area, and we can make a note of, the connection from 6 to 9 as just a finding.
Sure.
I think that was it.
Okay. Would anyone care to make a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability conditioned as discussed?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And Melissa?
Watson.
Yes.
Pete.
Yes.
Kyer.
Yes.
Gregory.
Yes.
Wittes.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay. Next up. Excuse me. Continued notice of intent and stormwater management permit for Ken's Foods. In accordance with the provisions of the Southborough Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southborough Zoning Code Chapter 174, Section 13.5, and the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Southborough Conservation Commission will hold 2 continued public hearings on Thursday, November 18th, 2021 at 7:45 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of Ken's Foods Incorporated for approval of a stormwater management permit and notice of intent for the construction of a 62,500 square foot addition to the existing warehouse at 325 Turnpike Road, map 26, lots 2 and 6. These hearings will be held concurrently. Good evening, Mr. Doty.
Good evening, Mr. Smith and Commission. With me tonight is Bill Pizzoni, and also in attendance watching is Mark Arnold from Goddard. In the event we need him, just to let you know. I would suppose I'd like to update you on what has been done and most recently related to this filing, and some findings that have been made, and also where we are in terms of resubmittal of plans. If that's all right, should I just continue on, Ben?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We met last on the 28th. On that same day, we had submitted a new set of plans, a revised set of plans and stormwater calculations, but I do believe that perhaps Fussin O'Neill has not had an opportunity, I think, to provide any comments on that. Also, the consultants, the wetland consultants, Goddard and the commission's consultant, Lucas, I believe Joe was out there also with Melissa. And I believe that also perhaps yourself, Mr. Smith, were out there on the 4th when the wetland line was, delineation line was walked. There were some adjustments made to the line. Let me share my screen there. I trust you can see the screen, the plan.
Yes.
Okay. Some adjustments were made to wetland delineation flags in this general area down here in the southeast. Particularly this area, this triangular area here was reflagged as wetland. It was, the wetland line had originally gone back into this area here. So so that area, that wetland line is a bit closer to the proposed building and driveway, though it's not the closest. There's still the other wetland lines that are closer. We were pleased to hear that there were really no surprises out there in the delineation walk. In fact, as we had suspected, the mean annual high water level along the stream in this area was rewalked, and considered that some of the flagging from had been originally done. Now, if it was to be reestablished, would be closer into the brook, and as a result, it would be a little more. It'd give us a little less riverfront area that would be impacted by the work, but it's not worth it to do it. We might as well leave the conservative line out there that's out there. I think that all things being said, that it impacts area calculation in terms of resource area or riverfront area, but in fact, it's not negative for the project to leave it where it is. The reflagging is incorporated into this plan that had been prepared for submittal a week ago, but at the same time, we were reviewing as-built drawings for the remainder of the site from the prior projects, pursuant to seeking the certificates of compliance, at least for the physical work for those projects, those being, again, just to tick them off to remind the commission, the sound wall in the back, the project where the original renovation from 2017 through 18, and also the septic system reconstruction access way. And primarily the issues that remain had to do with reestablishment or better establishment of the plantings that had been proposed. Some of them, of course, associated with the bioretention area in the northeast of the site, some of them associated with the crossing up to the septic system, and other plantings that were considered for restoration plantings for the potential impact that that crossing would have. There also was there had been a siltation violation that had been discovered that was looked at. And my understanding that in review of that siltation violation and the status of the 20-foot area and the wetland in that area, that the parties all came to the same conclusion that everything looked well, looked like it had been cleaned up well, and was well reestablished in terms of its vegetative growth and as such. So we believe that was confirmed, and I look forward to hearing what Mr. Smith has to say about that also. I don't know if you would like to comment on these one by one as I go through them, or if you'd like me to go through and then come back to it. No, you're on mute, Mr. Smith, I think you are. Yep.
Sorry about that. I was going to say, please continue with your presentation, and then afterwards we can open it up to the commission.
Okay, sure. Thank you. In the area of the restoration by the old truck turnaround on the north side of the building, that in fact does need to be redone. Certainly the plantings that are in the northeast around the bioretention pond are borderline 50% successful. We were obviously looking at for a 75% success rate in the vegetation and establishment there. There is, of course, a healthy cattail marsh growth going there. But some of the other plant materials that we have did not do as well, did not fare as well. It appears that there's some damage from snow removal. We'll remove that area from a snow removal dumping designation because of that. And I believe, as Melissa had suggested, that some signs should be erected to perhaps to help prevent that when there might be new snowplow. But in any event, that area is going to, there's going to be some replanting in that area that's going to be necessary ultimately in the long run. But one of the biggest item that came up out of the as-built was the discovery that that the drainage control, the outlet control for the drainage system that had been built this is a part of the as-built plan. This is the southwest corner of the building. Route 9's below us here on the in this plan view, and the truck dock area to the west of the existing building is up here in the upper left and of this plan. This is the south lawn, and this is the existing underground detention chamber. The control structure for that system, and also the system under the truck area, is a vault with a control structure down here. It was built about a foot lower than it should be. And so we've dug down deep on this to come up with a solution that we could do fairly quickly. I did send the information, I believe the as-built information, and an email of this effect to Melissa that I trust that she may have and probably did forward to commission members. That the solution would be is that we would create we only need to build two new control structures, one here on this island for the system below the truck yard, and one here immediately to the southwest corner of the south lawn area, the system that's in the south lawn, to control that. And so it required remodeling of the hydrology into two systems instead of one. And the solution does work. We've confirmed it. We've finished that aspect of it today, and are adding that information to the plans, because it would seem, based on conversations and where we are, that we don't have a mechanism to do this fix. The permit is expired. We're in this process, I know we do not understand this is one thing that the commission had wished to avoid, but the process, the submittal process that we're in gives us an opportunity to get that covered by a commission action, the work associated with that. The control structure that would be up by the truck yard is outside of any resource area or buffer zone from resource areas. This one here down here would be within the 100 feet of the FEMA line, the 100-year storm line. And as a result, it's in that buffer zone from that as considered a resource by the town of Southborough. So not to mention that work is also within the jurisdiction of stormwater management regulations for the town and storm management permits that the commission is responsible for. So that's where we are on that. So we are going to provide the design for 2 new control structures here and here to remedy that. The problem that the lower control structure has is that we're not getting everything out of, when I say getting everything out, we're not getting all the detention and all of the potential infiltration out of these 2 systems because that control structure is too low. And if we were to rebuild that, it would require rebuilding some of these pipes and rebuilding that structure, all in very close proximity to the wetland, as we all know. And I think we'd all prefer not to do that. One would say, why we should, maybe perhaps we should have had the 2 control structures originally, but the fact that this was a very creative and positive way to do it, because we also allowed us to have storage in these 30-inch pipes, giving us some additional capacity for drainage control that we now don't have with control structures. However, we've done the full analysis, the hydrology. In fact, these systems were not only was this system, the control system built lower, but the 2 areas were built 6 inches higher. So they have that much more capacity. So the control systems will work well here, very well. So that they still maintain the peaks and maintain the volumes from the prior to the renovation. What this also involved in this, of course, is with the going back to the current plan, the current proposal. This is, of course, the building. Again, Route 9 is to the south of us. This area here is the expansion, the 62,500 foot expansion. What you see in gray there is the relocated fire access driveway around the building. One of the things that we had talked about last time was the capability and what happens with this level spreader here. In fact, the modeling of it shows that it does of all the storms that were studied, the 2, the 10, the 25, and the 100-year storm event, this level spreader actually allows us to reduce the volume for the 100-year event. It doesn't reduce the volume, interestingly, it doesn't reduce the volume for any of the other storms, but it does for the drainage exit, the last design point leaving the site for the 100-year storm. So I'm pleased to report that, because I know that especially you, Mr. Smith, was interested in that. Were we capable of being able to reduce volume somewhat with this and the porous pavement that we're constructing, the porous bituminous that we're constructing the emergency driveway of. The other factors out here that you see on the because we're getting new plans to the commission next week in advance of the hearing, because we're expecting continuance to December, is that with that is of course the wildflower planting area that we talked about earlier that does go project into the 20-foot area in some places, but we, you know, as we mentioned, this is a allowable use to restore and actually put a positive vegetative community in that direct area close to the wetlands. It's going to be much better than having the lawns that are in that area there in that regard. So again, we don't have the latest comments from Fuss and O'Neill, but we suspect that the plans that we will be providing next week would be the final plans, and perhaps that they're waiting to look at those. Going down a list of things here, I want to just make sure that we talked about, we talked about the as-built, we talked about a little bit about November 4th site visits. And I understand from discussions that Mr. Pizzoni had with Melissa this week that we wouldn't expect anything, and Joe can probably talk to this, expect a Lucas report on the 11/4 site visit, perhaps not until the next set of plans are reviewed by them. So as I said, the new wetland delineation. Oh, here, the last point I wanted to make is that we did, a decision has been made on how the foundations would be built for the new addition. Instead of traditional foundation footing excavations that have a lot of soil and removal associated with them, the decision has been made to use a rammed earth or a reinforced earth system of creating piles with the soil in place that then the mat for the slab and is built upon. So there's no need to do any excessive excavation. So now we can finalize our earthwork estimate and report that what will be necessary to excavate is it's about 6,400 yards of material, basically the topmost layer in the area of the addition, plus another 2,400 yards in the area of the expansion for the underground detention system, and that is essentially what comes off the site. Other than that, material that, of course, is going to be replaced by stone and chamber voids in this area, and in the area where the material is being removed in the place of the building, it would be building slab and concrete parts of the structure, the foundation structure of the building. The remainder of the earthwork falls into a category of near equal cut and fill, where, well, when we say we're in the 600-yard area in terms of moving earth around, other than those two larger elements, which are significant, soil removal, but much less than what had been originally anticipated or potentially as a possibility, and why we wanted to wait until we knew for sure before we would report that. That decision's been made. Those are the major elements that we have to present. So that being said,
thank you very much.
To you, Mr. Chairman.
So as Mark, who couldn't join us this evening, has stressed, you know, before we can really move forward with anything, we have to get a handle on the 3 outstanding permits. And I think the way we get a handle on those is at some point, I guess this is a question as much to you, Melissa, to figure out where we are on this. I mean, the commission at some point is going to need to have, I'm envisioning a document that lists for each of the 3 permits, in particular the expired permits, you know, what is outstanding and will be incorporated into the new filing to get it done, to give you the ability to get it done under an active permit, so that we can vote to close these permits out. It's going to be kind of an accounting exercise because there's a lot of different moving parts. We need to know what is associated with which permit, what is being carried forward into the new permit, so that we can finally, I would like to have at our next meeting, if we could simply sit down and vote to issue certificates of completion or close out stormwater permit or whatever, and put these things to bed so that we can then focus on this new project, which will incorporate some of the past elements, like these two drainage structures that you've proposed this evening. So that's just sort of from a procedural standpoint. We've got to get that done, and it's great to hear this update tonight, and we learned much more. Also, Carl and I joined Melissa and Joe on the site walk. We learned a lot of the details about from Mr. Arnold. But again, I'm not joking when I say it's going to be an accounting exercise, the meeting where we finally tackle this stuff. I'm just picturing trying to make these motions with all the various conditions. It's a lot to keep track of. We're going to need this documented in some fashion.
Well, we will give this for, we'll have the package that we'll deliver early next week. We'll have that outlined, at least as a first draft for Melissa and perhaps myself and Bill Pizzoni to work on, to get that clarified for the commission, so that it's by the time it gets to the commission at the December meeting that you have that all the moving parts settled where they're going to fall, as you want. That's what we propose to do. I think those of us that are faced with it on a regular basis, it's very clear to us, but we can understand that the commission needs to see it outlined in bullet items of what action is going to be taking care of what pieces that are resolved and what pieces get continued on into the new permit.
It's just so that we can, we need it all itemized so that we can vote to close out these past permits.
Yeah.
So I see Attorney Pizzoni has his hand raised. Melissa, or did that just go away? Oh, I guess not.
It may have said what he wanted to say, but
here I am. Ben, I had a conversation with Melissa yesterday, and we understand that, and I had a conversation today with Ken's as well, that we do have to basically itemize everything as it relates to each permit, so that you know what we're asking for, what we're looking to carry forward, what Melissa and your board feels appropriate to carry forward, so that you can make a vote relative to closing those permits, rolling them forward, and then discuss. We could discuss the resolution of each of them as you roll them forward, but it's probably more appropriate to have it in the package of the current filing before you, so that at the next meeting, it's our intention that you'll be able to vote to close all those out, move those all forward, and we would have addressed most of those issues on how we intend to take care of them, especially like this drainage issue that just came up. I think the resolution they came up with is a good one. I've spoken to the engineers. I think that it's something that Fuss O'Neill is going to be happy with as well. And, we'd like to, like you said, we need clarity to see where we're going, basically. And that's what we're going to have to you at the next meeting. But we will also have an updated plan with as much data on it as we can from the site visit with Lucas. Any feedback we can get from them through Melissa would be great if it comes in this week, so we can get it on the plan if it hasn't already been provided. We do intend to, put notes on it relative to where, we need to reestablish certain growth areas based on the old permits, so that you've got an all-encompassing new plan, and we can work from it and make sure everything gets covered. But we do need like the level spreader idea. We're going to put it on the plan. We're hoping that you guys agree with us that that's appropriate. We want to be able to use a 20-foot buffer to do other, planting wildflowers and things like that are, not invasive, but are going to promote what we're looking to promote here from a conservation standpoint. So I think what we're going to get to you next week is hopefully going to answer a lot of your questions so we can move relatively swiftly at the next meeting to close out the old ones and then focus directly on the new application before you.
Great, thank you. And I bring that up first because, I'm filling Mark's shoes tonight, and I know it's the very first thing he would have brought up too. So I just wanted to get that as much clarity as we can on that. I see Carl raising his hand. Carl.
Yeah, I have questions on the process that we're talking about. Because if we close out, we issue certificates of completion for these 3 projects, and they're not complete, and if Ken's decides they don't need their addition, they'll never get completed. Or they might just do it out of good heart, but we don't have any leverage anymore to make sure that they're completed. And then if we do that, I don't know how we transition over from those old projects into the new one and ensure that the other projects get completed before they start the new project. I mean, can we
outline that?
Can we?
I think there's a procedural way. I think there is a way to do that, Carl.
Yes.
I think there is. I think at the next meeting we can have, Ken's in the design team can have all their ducks in a row and itemize everything that is outstanding that needs to be addressed, that is to be carried forward, so to speak. We can sort of forbear on actually acting on those 3 votes until the night where we vote on issuing the notice of intent and stormwater management plan that is the topic of this current public hearing. And that evening we can conduct it's going to be 5 votes, and we can order them such that we would issue a notice of intent and stormwater management plan based on their current filing, and immediately afterwards we can then issue certificates of completions or close out stormwater permits, and we can do that because the work has already been carried forward into a new permit. Does that make sense?
If I could, because I think I understand Kyle's dilemma, and not that Ken's is not going to move forward with this project. But
I'm pretty sure you're going to do it.
He's correct. Where's the leverage? But I think what you do, Kyle, is that you vote to issue them, but not release them until the work's completed. Okay, so we can't record. Now this is new territory for me. I haven't never been through this. Yeah, I mean, and Ken's can agree to that format, if you want. But they want to get this done, believe me. They want to get this building built. They want to start generating. I mean, it's going to generate a lot of revenue for the town.
But will that still gate the starting of the new project?
Yeah.
Or will that?
Yes, Carl, he's saying they're going to hold the order until they finish all the other items and then issue the order.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
So
Sherry, you're okay with that then? Yeah.
I want to think about that. So
yeah, all right. Well,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I don't want anybody to feel uneasy.
I'm curious to see the list of everything laid out. I think that's I'm visual. Yeah. I also would like to see it all called out on a plan. You're going to be submitting a new plan, so these are new action items on a plan technically. Right, so I like to have them color coded some way different, just so it's very obvious what will be done first to close out old things, and then your secondary for your new building. I think that's helpful.
I'm like you. I'm like you. I need a visual. So yeah. I was going to ask that they have like a block, on the plan. These are the items,
right?
And then you locate them on the plan.
I think there's no other way to do it because it has to be done. That you have to see what is what. And I don't. And Carl, I don't think we can close the prior project, the big project, until those. You can't really issue a certificate of compliance on that until those drainage repairs are done.
Yeah, that's one of the things. It's probably, I don't know how long it's gonna take you to do that. That's not way out of my, realm.
Can I, since you brought that up, can I ask a question? You're calling the control system, that's basically an outfall.
It's the outlet control. Actually the outlet control is a rectangular broad crested weir that's in the structure.
Okay.
That was built at the wrong elevation.
You can't just raise the weir? You can't just jack it?
No, because you could raise the weir, put a plate on it. That's a good question. There's the first thing we looked at.
Yeah.
Except we still don't get the advantage of the capturing the voids in the systems higher than the top of the top part of the weir. All right.
I can't, because I don't know if detail about
it.
I can't visualize
really,
that.
we still lose about 1.5 feet of the top use of the voids.
Also, the pipe work leading up to it is similarly low. The pipe work leading to it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scott,
Well,
when you
that would give you more retention, wouldn't it?
I'm sorry.
Never mind. I'm out of my realm. I'm sorry. We're taking.
No, you're not. This is your.
Nope. Sorry.
Sherry, you had another question.
yeah, so the I think it's the southerly weir that you're going to create, not by the trucking stop. When that water is now added to that system, I know they connect under the road, but just some sort of documentation noting that won't have a negative effect on that area, because now it's going to have new water coming into it.
Yeah, it will not. It'll be as it will work as originally designed. It will not have a negative. It will have the positive. We'll be getting to the positive results that we originally intended. Okay. With these changes. We'll have the detention storage and the infiltration capability that we had planned on having. So it will not. It will be a benefit. Is what it will be, not a negative.
So I've got another.
The good news is we had a 100-year flood this past year, and it worked. And we're going to make it even better.
Well, I think that in light of that, it's it's why I guess we noted that and everybody noted that it didn't flood the lawn didn't get flooded this year, and also it seems to be running better, the whole system. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that the control structure is lower, that's for sure, or negatively or positively.
One minor thing that since we're talking about this project for so long, I was scanning through all the documents, and the application still hasn't been signed by the applicant. Can we get that?
It has. I just didn't upload the signed one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the electronic one they sent just didn't have
the
the
early
signature.
applications that didn't have a copy of the original signature.
Okay, so it's been signed. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm going to keep beating on the same dead horse I bring up at every meeting. So first, I'm thrilled to hear that the level spreader has had such an impact on the infiltration volume in the 100-year storm. Sometimes these weird situations crop up where it's easier to mitigate the 100-year storm than it is the lesser storm events. That's a bunch of sort of weird esoteric reasons, but it happens from time to time. It generally, I haven't gone through the details of this specific situation in any great depth, but it usually indicates that you're not too far out with the other storms. And they are close. What I brought up before is that changing ground cover changes the curve number used in your TR55 calcs. It changes the initial abstraction in a rainfall event and decreases the amount of runoff and increases the amount of infiltration. And this is another strategy.
If you get the coefficient up lower, it's slowing it down more. The
correct, and there's simply less
percolate.
Yeah, and there's less water that needs to be infiltrated to start with.
Right. So you're talking about a change in the coverage from what might be regularly mowed lawn to something
that has a higher curve number.
Can I make one request? The level spreader, I don't know if anybody else, I can't visualize this thing. I don't know what it is. Right? would you mind at next meeting, 5 minutes? Describing how it works?
I could show you now if you'd like on the detail of the.
I don't want to hold up the meeting.
If you'd want to spend the time now.
Am I the only one? I mean, I can find out some other way. Does everybody else understand how this works?
I think if Scott, if you can pull the detail up quickly, I think visually, when you see it, it all makes sense.
Let me make sure I got it here. And
How
then
does
I'll grab the thing. I do realize you have an unfinished point that you've made, Mr. Smith. Oh, I put the wrong one. Here we go. So it's the other. Of course, if it's not one, it's the other. Yeah, here it is. Okay, I got it.
That's part of the fun of this, is you learn.
Yeah, it's I can understand your question, and right next to it happens to be the detail for the structures, in case there's any questions related to that. But let me get down there. Come on. Here we go. This is the level spreader. I think it's best if I orient you a little bit. You can see this detail, I presume?
You're not sharing.
Okay. What in this cross section over the driveway to the south of the building.
Scott, you need to share your screen, Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There we go.
Oh God, I'm sorry. It's user error usually. This is the level spreader, and in this cross section, this is a cross section through it. If to orient yourself, Route 9 is far to 200 feet plus to the right of this detail. The building is obviously to the left. This, what you see up here is the driveway pavement going around the building, and right in this case in front of the building. The trick here is that this is a cut line through a section. So there's a slope off of the edge of the driveway that goes down to the south lawn. We put what's called a level spreader pipe, a perforated pipe, adjacent to that slope, allowing water to percolate out of the pipe, and then it travels through a layer of gravel. It's not only just, it has this thickness, but it's 50 feet long, if you could imagine, towards you and away from you in this cross section. And the water builds up in the bottom of this, what you call a reservoir, below the perforated stone, comes up, and then it flows through this gravel and then this larger rock at the edge of the slope surface, and then it goes out into the lawn over that 50-foot wide area, mimicking, I guess is mimicking in quotes, what would happen if the rainfall had fallen onto the ground itself. So it's not concentrated in one place. It doesn't have a large or a significant point of discharge. It's level and it's spread so that there's not a need to worry about erosion or sedimentation, and it spreads it out such that it can then the water can percolate to the extent that soils allow and the vegetation allow, percolate into the soil. Does that help you?
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I understand that. Thank you. Now, one other one. How you've got your other underground?
Unfortunately, I'll get to that. Unfortunately, I want to point out this is the only place we can do this on the site because of the grade changes out there.
Oh, okay. So there's the underground one too. So the water has two places to go. How do you control which place they go?
Okay. Good. Very good. Yeah.
Sorry, but I hope I'm not taking up too much time here with everybody.
Yeah. I know it's helpful for you to see. Where's that original design? Okay. Just give me 1 second here. Zoom in on that. Go. Okay, give you the sort of a broad view again first. Here's the underground system. This area right here, this dashed red line that you might be seeing, I'll zoom in on it, is the level spreader, but so you can see the relationship here. And I'm going to zoom in on it. Okay. What we have, it takes, and this won't take long to explain. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I know you got other things to do. That there are four rainwater leaders coming out of the building. Two of them come out at a higher elevation because they're able to, because they're capturing the stormwater at the roof at the southmost portion of the addition. They come out at a higher elevation to two manholes that are either end of the level spreader and bring it, and they feed the water into that level spreader, which then, this is the slope at the edge of the, and then that's the area there that's got over 200 feet before it gets to any wetland or anything. It's 200 foot of lawn area here for it to percolate out into. So that's how the level spreader works. Water's piped in at these two pipes here that are to the left of each of these pairs. The rest of the roof comes down and goes into this manhole system and drain system, and then goes into a level manifold here and then feeds the underground system there.
So they're both working all the time.
They're separate, but there is a connection here, Mr. Geyer, that in the event, let's say there's some kind of weird catastrophic failure, which I doubt would be the case. We've never had these fail, but we always try to have a fail safe for it. This system is designed to handle the entire roof, not just the roof including the areas that are going to the level spreader should it ever need to. Should this level spreader system get crushed or blocked or stuff or anything like that, this pipe here feeds back into the lower system that goes to the underground system. So they are joined that way, but it's a fail safe. That's there in the event that, let's say, something happens that this gravel is clogged or not, but this gravel level spreader now becomes an item that gets added to the O&M plan. It's something that has to be reviewed on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Sure that it's running properly.
Thank you for doing that.
So that's it.
Satisfied my curiosity. I hope I didn't take up your time. Thanks.
It's your job right now, right? To do that, to understand this.
Okay, so with that, just very quickly, any other commissioners have a question or comment to ask before we move along?
And I just have one thing.
Yep.
Scott, I still have not received the extension to act for the stormwater permit.
Bill, you have that in, we're gonna process that today or tonight? Are you there, Bill? But I think we talked about, I think there's a need obviously to continue till next meeting.
Bill's talking, but he's on mute.
Is he? Okay. I'll stop sharing so you guys can see more of the screen.
Yeah, no, I actually, Scott, I thought you were going to submit that, but yeah, Melissa, we'll get that to you either tonight, we'll forward it tomorrow. With the
I'll do it right after this, after we get out of the meeting. I can sign it and scan it and send it to you.
So I guess, can we have a verbal confirmation then? Because otherwise the deadline for the commission would be the 23rd. So they'd have to make a decision tonight, which I don't think
we
will.
request extension to the December meeting. Thank you.
Now, why don't we give them 45 days? Because that's, I think it's broken out into 45, 60, and 90 days on your application. Why don't we give them 45 days? That gets us to the end of the year anyhow. If we have to extend it again at the next meeting, we will.
Thank you.
Yes.
And
that is
Joe.
Reminding us.
Sorry, Joe?
Yes, just a couple of quick comments regarding some of the delineation info presented tonight. Obviously, I can't comment on the BVW flag changes until I see the revised plan. The mean annual high water line, although I think we all agree what's been presented is a conservative line. I would recommend that an accurate delineation of the mean high water line be done. I would think the applicant would probably would be beneficial to the applicant because it would reduce the amount of riverfront area that they're looking at working in. And I think just having an accurate a line on the plan is better than having an estimated line based on an old water level. And also, I think it was mentioned that there was a 100-year storm this year, and that the flood level didn't come up too high. I didn't know if any documentation had been presented or submitted regarding when that occurred and where the water level was at that time.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. Okay, so I'm not gonna. Yeah, it is. I'd say we've had significant rainfall events that in the past, similar rainfall events would have flooded, and they haven't. But my client informed me that believed that there was a 100-year storm event this year, and I have not been able to. I haven't looked for that documentation yet. I think that actually, discussing that or trying to determine whether or not there was one or not is less important than discussing, I think, what we wanted to talk about and we talked about last time was what we do about that 100-year elevation. And what we propose to do, what we proposed last time and continue and will be in the materials we send is that we propose to do that study, a robust study of the establishing the, I guess maybe perhaps a remapping of the FEMA line on the property in this in this area as part of the project. As a condition, we would expect that would be a condition of the project that we perform that. That's something that can be done while the project is starting or start before the project starts actually. So that's where we are on that we think that we should more important than getting that flag in also that flag's important. Those flags are important that we get the conservative line perhaps more realistic, but more important is perhaps probably the bordering land subject to flooding line in terms of true impacts and concerns.
Thank you. So before we go ahead and continue things for tonight, I just want to ask if there's anyone from the public here this evening who would like to ask a question or make a comment tonight. If so, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and we'll promote you up.
I don't see anyone.
Not seeing anybody. I think, Carl, you raising your hand? You got another?
No.
Oh, okay, just making sure. It looked like you might. So at this point, I think it's time for a motion to continue to our December hearing. Somebody do the honors?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Watson?
Yes.
Ken, I think you also have to vote to accept our request for an extension.
Oh, before we close, yeah. So let's postpone the continuance here. And do we have a motion to accept the request for an extension?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, Melissa.
Watson?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Guyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
And then
So,
roll call for the continuance. Watson?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Guyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and have a great night. We'll see you in 3 weeks.
Yeah. And was there a time put on that, Melissa?
Not yet. Nope. The agenda won't be set
Okay.
until closer to the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Yes, thank you.
Don't we have to still vote
Okay.
to continue?
We did.
No, that was the second vote. We did. We still had the motion and second still on the floor, so yeah, on the table. All right, we're on to new and/or continued business. Request for a certificate of compliance, Stonebrook Court.
That is continuing.
Continue.
They have a couple comments and they were basing some of their compliance off the old order, not the new one. So they're gonna reassess.
Next up is a request for an extension for the Northborough Road culvert.
And I do have a slight update on this. So they are asking for a 3-year extension because they did find out. So I did lie to you a little bit in my email that they got 70 grand earmarked for them for roads or infrastructure, one of the other. So that most of that is going to cover the cost of this culvert replacement. So this is back on track. So hopefully this will be done in the near future.
Great news. Yeah, a motion to grant a 3-year extension.
So moved.
Second. Okay.
Watson?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Guyer? Guyer, you're on mute. Sorry.
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, next up, a violation at Lot 5 Granuel Road.
Yes, so I'm going to bring their engineer in. Essentially, this is the lot on Granuel as part of kind of a common development on that street. This particular lot had an original NOI, but was since withdrawn because they were waiting on perk testing and then the water table was a little bit too high. So since then, one of the contractors has kind of utilized this area as a stockpiling and storage place. So a lot of work within the buffer zone has commenced without approval from the commission. There is erosion controls installed at the 20-foot, so it looks like nothing has encroached into there, but it's mainly the large disturbance and stockpiles throughout the rest of the site. I think James, if you are here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, we're also trying to get the video going here, failing on that, but I don't think that's absolutely necessary. I went out and took a look at the site yesterday and taped some measurements and took a look at things. And I went back, since talked to Jim Benacasa, Whitney Street Home Builders, about what exactly happened here. And his explanation of what happened fits my observations, because I will tell you that I think there are 2 measures that need to be taken there right away. One is that there's an area of the silt fence on site that has been pushed over a bit. There's about a 30 to 40 foot stretch over by the 20-foot no disturb zone. And I also think that there needs to be more temporary stabilization, either stump grindings or wood chips placed on that surface. It's good. Some of it has pretty good cover, but some is exposed. So when I went out there and saw, again, the area that needs to be, where the fence is pushed over, it struck me as very curious, because if there had been a encroachment where there shouldn't have been and then fencing placed, why was the fencing pushed over? But what Mr. Benacasa explained is that what happened there is they were starting construction on the lot next door, lot 4, and we were scheduling soil testing on lot 5 and intending to develop on lot 5. And we had drawn on in the computer a prospective limit of work and intended erosion control barrier line. And when we transferred the AutoCAD file to the contractor for him to use in doing staking, the entire line, including what was on lot 5, was transferred to him, and he had his guys go out and mark actually stake points for the erosion control barrier installer, S&M Farms. He marked stake points continuing into lot 5. And then S&M Farms installed a barrier continuing into lot 5. And unfortunately, the contractor doing grading work saw a barrier some distance off the road and assumed that he was free to work up to that point. So that was the mistake that happened. I just want you to have an idea of how this came about. And again, that's why I see a piece of the barrier that is pushed over, because the earth movement happened after the barrier was installed on this lot. And it was installed on this lot really by mistake. It shouldn't have gone that far. So the applicant wants to apologize for that, and he has taken some measures right away, putting stump grindings and wood chip down. But I think it needs more. This was my impression from seeing the site. And that, again, that piece of barrier above the 20-foot disturbance zone limit, that where it's pushed over, needs to be fixed. So those are two things that I think need to be done short term. Long term, at this point, I think this is going to sit through. We would ask if the commission would let this sit through the winter, and in springtime, again, we're trying to finish up soil testing here. Either stabilize it with planting then, or if permits are ongoing and are being achieved for this lot, that we would go forward with this barrier as limit of work. But we'll try and answer any questions. Again, it was not a purposeful intrusion. It was a couple of mistakes piled on each other that caused this, and we apologize. Yeah, and Mr. Benincasa wants to note that he didn't gain any benefit out of this. It wasn't an attempt to make a yard bigger or or any other sort of thing. It was that we gave probably too much information to the contractor doing stakeout work, and one of his other guys then thought that was his limit of what he could do work up to.
Thank you. No, go ahead.
Melissa, do you have any pictures of this?
I was trying to transfer them earlier and they're not transferring, so I apologize. I did take some today to show you guys. But it is, I think one of my biggest concerns is not even just the stockpiling, but James, I'm not sure if you kind of maybe did an initial assumption of how much fill in general, because I know the back of the lot towards the 20-foot, has been brought up significantly than what it was in pre-existing conditions. So I'm kind of concerned about that. And I think it's, when I was talking to Jim, it's a lot of concern in a lot of area. And, I can pull up the plan that you sent if you don't want to share yourself, kind of that shows that a great amount of the site was disturbed. We do have the original plan from lot 5 when they were pursuing this. That shows kind of the general tree line that's definitely being extended. So it's not even just stockpiling, but also some clearing of vegetation and such that wasn't approved.
That's correct. I want to be upfront with the commission. We don't, Melissa, I think, is correctly representing the situation. We do not contest what she is, how she has described it.
Melissa, could you pull that plan up just to help us visualize this?
Sure.
It would be a big help.
So first, I will show you, this is what the original proposal was for this site. So this is the 20-foot no touch, kind of where that silt fence is going. So the house is going to be up front with the septic system out back. And then there was kind of that steep drop off in the back. And then, so this is the, the sketch area of what has been altered on the site on this particular lot.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Melissa, all the green?
All the green. Mm-hmm. And this is the 100-foot buffer line. So everything inside.
Okay. And just for further clarification, it's hard to read with the note turned sideways, but that area that's hatched is about 13,200 square feet. Just for.
Okay.
Just a quick question, Melissa. So is the big drop off a natural thing? Does it drop off naturally?
No, it's going to be where the septic is.
So the disturbance is really kind of where it comes up to where the septic was going to be, because it looks like
Yeah. I would say that's a fair assumption. Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
So, but as it stands now, it's kind of built the opposite way. So this is more up level and flat with the lot versus sloping downwards. So it's a lot taller than the silt fences.
And so Melissa, right now, how would you describe the stability of the site with respect to erosion and sedimentation?
I mean, to be fair, the erosion controls are definitely doing their job. It's a good thing that they were installed. They were installed correctly. Besides some areas, they're in pretty good condition. Nothing has spilled over. I was mainly, last time I saw it, I was over on 24 talking with this new homeowner. And it wasn't until I kind of got in their backyard did I see kind of how far it had extended in the amount. In terms of impacts to resource areas, I think they've been protected. In that sense, that's been a job well done, but it's mostly just unauthorized work in the buffer zone and how the commission wants to move forward. My initial thoughts in talking to Jim was you should get that out of there and you need to stabilize immediately. But it's kind of figuring out what the commission would like in the in-between. If the hope is to develop this lot in the future, if they're just going to disturb it again, then certain types of mitigation wouldn't necessarily make sense, but also what's the timeline for that? So there's kind of a couple moving factors that I think we should probably hash through.
Jim, could you speak to Melissa's second point? Are there future plans of the site that are in the by near term? I mean, like in the next year or so?
Mr. Chairman, yes, there are. We've done some soil testing on site. We didn't complete soil testing, and it's a relatively high groundwater area, such that just to do some of the soil testing, you really need to have a fairly dry ground moisture condition. So we had done some of the tests. We were waiting for a drier time, and then, of course, came into our series of half-inch rains. So we do intend to, what the applicant would ask if the commission would consider at this date and time, he's got fairly good temporary stabilization. He'd like to, I think he needs to do a little more, but we'd like to maybe revisit this as a discussion with the commission in springtime. After again having satisfied you and your agent that the temporary stabilization to last through winter is what it should be.
So I haven't visited the site, Melissa. I'm concerned with the steeper grades holding together through the winter time, and it sounds like in their current condition they are holding together, but could use some buttressing to give us some assurance that they can hold together through the winter. Is that a fair assessment?
We think that's a fair assessment.
Okay. Melissa, you're our eyes on the site. So with the steeper grades, it sounds like there might be some more stabilization necessary if the commission chose to allow the site to sit for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that characterization?
Yes, I would agree with that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what would your estimate be on the slope of this filled, the backside of the filled area where it aims sort of towards the wetland? Is it 5 to 1, 3 to 1, 2 to 1?
I don't know if I can get a good estimate on that. It's not insane, it's definitely not overly steep. It was still pretty soft back there on the abutting property, so I didn't get as far directly behind it as I would have liked. But it definitely, maybe even with some blankets on that slope, I think that would be sufficient.
By blankets, you mean like jute mesh, stake jute mesh? Yep.
Yep.
Carl?
Yeah, with some, they're trying to control with some additional laying of some wattles along that slope help, if anything, starts to move?
I don't think so.
No?
You know, it is a silt fence that's there. It's very well entrenched. You know, S&M Farm does do a really good job when they do install the erosion control. So I think at this point, adding a wattle wouldn't necessarily do much.
Up the hill some, you know, halfway up the slope or something?
The slope is pretty on the silt fence. So there's not really space in between the end of slope to the silt fence. I would say the erosion control blankets will work better than a wattle on the slope.
Okay.
Jim, do you have an estimate on the steepness of the slope? You heard my question to Melissa earlier. What would you estimate it as, just out of curiosity?
I think it varies from I guess you'd say the west end to being 3 to 1 to 4 to 1 to in a couple spots 1 to 1 to 2 to 1, but probably more averaging in the 3 to 1.
Okay.
It's not entirely consistent.
Yeah. I mean, you know, personally, everything 3 to 1 and steeper. If it's going to sit through the winter, I would suggest really needs some stabilization in jute mesh. I would be very comfortable with. If you chose to go the mulch and tackifier route, you'd have to reapply, you know, at least one more time during the winter.
James, are you talking about mulching like you've done in Westboro at the ridings? Off of Harvest Way. I don't know if you're familiar with what.
I haven't seen it since they've done it, so I'm trying.
Okay.
I apologize. But we have found stump grindings to be on a particular slope on a site in Worcester that is like about a 2 to 1 slope, has held for quite a long time. But it really has to be stump grindings more than just wood chips, because they have a little more weight and ability to resist any flow force.
And are all the trees and vegetation removed from the site at the moment? Is there anything left?
In the area that was altered, the area that's shown in the hatching on the plan Melissa showed, there really aren't.
Oh,
that area was apparently was more brush and vines than sort of woodland. We want to characterize it. Previously, it doesn't excuse what the contractor did, but he didn't cut trees to create that opening.
And I will confirm that from remembering the site visit, it was a lot of bittersweet.
Yeah, a lot of vines. Yeah.
I would say jute fabric install probably be the appropriate way then. That's what Melissa's comfortable with. I'm happy to vote for that.
And
we would have no objection to that as a treatment for the north face of the slope that's closest to the wetland, along with I think just applying a lot more stump grinding and wood chips over the other sort of plateau surface just to keep it temporarily stabilized.
With that, if you could put the wood chips against the lowest point on the erosion control, I've seen that have really good results in Westboro. So.
Okay.
And just to confirm, is the commission generally comfortable with leaving this fill material in place over the winter time in a stabilized fashion that meets Melissa's approval as our eyes and ears out there? Those are as Melissa described it, those are really the two options: stabilize what's there, keep it held together through the winter, or does the commission want to order it removed right now? I lean heavily towards keeping it in place and not opening a can of worms further, this late in the year.
You could also possibly, as a kind of an offset, set a timeline in which you wish to see a notice of intent, much like what we did at Southville Road with the Twin Pines property.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
In the timeline.
No objection to that. That seems perfectly fair.
I mean, we can always kind of work between now. We don't have to set the timeline at this meeting. We set at the next meeting, so you guys can kind of maybe go out there, take a look, maybe I can have some non-corrupted pictures to show you. And then maybe that way that gives James' team kind of a little bit more of a timeline for them to work with of what would be feasible and what their development plan is. And maybe if there is a possibility to remove some of it, that might be a better start, kind of meet in the middle, because there is a good amount out there. I think we can all admit that. So that might be a good way to kind of move forward.
That sounds like a great plan to me. So Jim, you'd be able to perhaps come to our next meeting after having looked into the future plans a little bit more deeply, and you could give us an estimate of when you foresee filing on the parcel.
We would do that, Mr. Chairman.
Great.
What's the next meeting date?
It is December 9th.
Okay. So this is not an official enforcement action. So we don't require a vote on this. But it sounds like we are all generally in agreement going forward. No one has any objection? Great. Okay.
Yeah, I think so, unless it's completely different when I go out there, but I expect Melissa has her corrupted pictures together.
Yeah, and if anyone wants, to go out there, wants to go with me, just let me know.
Great. All right. It sounds like we have a plan going forward. Thank you for coming in tonight, Jim, and we will see you again on December 9th.
Thank you for your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, next up, 84 Main Street discussion and project changes and updates. I see.
There's Lonan. Okay. There he is.
There he is. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. So Peter Beam is here on behalf of Jennifer Birchall, 84 Main. So what I've done is provided you with an exhibit. Do I do the screen share, Melissa, or will you do it?
Either or.
Okay, well, I'm ready. So
all right, go right ahead.
So I took the opportunity to do the overlay again with the GIS data that we got from Google Earth. And I have this both with and without that. And I'll just start with, and then I can zoom in on the one without as well. So what I've tried to do is memorialize those bounds to be set that we had talked about. Mr. Piscoli has some of these antique granite markers. It is wayside property in Sudbury, and those will come here and we'll put them in by survey at these locations that we've shown here. What I've also done is identified where there's work limits still ongoing. There's a sunroom that's in this position right here. There's a swimming pool that will be in this position right here. And then there's an associated deck to that in this position here. In the previous as-built work we had done for you, we had shown you where the wall was, and you can actually see that in the picture. There's a fireplace right here. Those trees are shown here that exist, and then the trees in this area are also shown. The rain garden was completed. We've had a couple of very intense rain events, not necessarily high volume, meaning like 3 and 4 inches, but certainly there was a couple of inches in a fairly short span there with that Saturday night rainstorm and the Friday rainstorm as well. So it has shown that it will work properly. All of this driveway here is curbed now. What they're doing is putting down a granite cobblestone on the flat and on the vertical. And there'll be pavement brought up to flush with the cobble on the flat. And that is all directed to this location. So it has proven itself to be effective. And then the last piece was the antique trellis. I know at one point we had discussed putting it in this area. they've decided that they would like best to put it here underneath the tree canopy. It is open underneath the canopy. It won't disturb any vegetation. If I meant to give Melissa some pictures that I had taken to show you what the cobbles look like. And then there's some park benches that are already underneath these trees, but I failed to do that and I don't have them ready at the moment. What I'll do is switch to the other image so you can see this better. But I think I have to stop the share and share again for you to see it. So bear with me. So again, in red, we have those items illustrated. So by doing this, I'm trying to bring you up to date as to what's in the field, what's completed at this time. And I also took the time to add a note on the right side of the sheet. Bear with me here. And in that, it was items left to be completed. So it's A through H. And I also identified that the wildflower planting has been successful to date. We do have a few areas where there are some knotweed that's come up because of the activity that we took on to remove riprap. So that did disturb some ground and it did cause some to come up. But we've been addressing those as they arise. And I don't know, I don't want to say that we won't have any in 2022, but my belief is that they'd be at a much lower frequency because they were not, they didn't like being pulled upon. Every time they started to propagate again, they got pulled out. So it does stunt their growth. It does, we're not trying to use chemicals at this point, I guess is what I want to say. And we've been doing it just through staying ahead of it. And then the last item was to identify again, because this was presented at the last meeting, that there are native, non-native, and hybrid plantings at the site, and they're distributed throughout the area. So many of the most important features of the site that were done by Olmsted himself were non-natives, but those have been protected. They're very nice plant materials, and there's just a lot going on out here. And I just hope that we can continue to work towards trying to get the project finished in the eyes of what everyone wanted here, and get a good project when we're done. So be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, Peter, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the swimming pool. Was that always part of the?
Yep, let me go back.
Yeah.
So there was always a swimming pool plan. I have a couple other exhibits. Was it intended to breach the 100-foot? No, it did. So I'm identifying that. This is one of the earlier plans. I'm not sure the genesis of all of them, but this one had shown that they had contemplated some sort of work in this entire area of the site. These were drawings that were developed as part of the discussions with the Historical Commission, and I know there was some other business dealings with the town in participating in the preservation of the property. So this was one of them, and I have one other one if you'll allow me to bring that one up. And again,
I think you're still showing your as-built.
See, I have to stop the share. Okay, pardon me. Let me do this. I kind of learned this the hard way, and I'll start the share again. Bear with me. Oh shoot, here we go. All right, so sorry. Now can you see it in green? So this was one of the exhibits that was presented, and it identified the areas behind the carriage house and near the chapel where that other formal garden was developed, and then the area here behind the building. And then I'm just going to stop the share for a moment and come back and share one more with you. Not that one, though. Okay, I've got that. Come back here. Share. This one. And again, this was another exhibit. These were both done by Board and Associates, and it shows that same area. And again, the purpose being is that they were going to put the sunroom in here and then the swimming pool. I did speak with Joe Hubley, because he was on the historical commission at the time that the preservation arrangements were being made. He's no longer on the historical commission, so we didn't have any actual records anymore. But I had asked him about a pool, and he said he recalled the pool, but didn't have any documents anymore. But it didn't remove Mr. Pascoli's responsibility from getting a permit. So we did file for a permit with the building department. I know it's been pending with Melissa. And again, the work has commenced. I'm showing you that the work is there, and I'm just telling you where it is. The belief of the contractors were that they were not inside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Understood. No,
it's in by a few feet.
I didn't recall it on many of the plans that you showed there that I know had been prepared for historical. We simply hadn't seen as the Conservation Commission. The only question that I was going to ask on the pool is where access for excavation is being made from. I'm assuming it's off of the paved driveway. It seems to make sense that it would be. I just wanted to make sure that it's not from further into the buffer zone, coming from the downhill side and working up.
Yeah, it's not. I'm gonna go back and share one more time. Bear with me again. I'm sorry. You get the right one. Yes, I have the right one. So all the access is here. I'm gonna zoom in a bit. Because access is basically precluded from this portion of the site. So when you get up to the terminus here, that stone wall would prevent you from getting down to the lower level. It is an upper level to a lower level. So all the access is right here. There's no access. This is all finished area, as a matter of fact. There is unfinished work right here. And that's why I showed it as limits under construction. So all the access is through here.
Okay. And so under construction, I don't see this as a, just to preface this, I don't see this as being any kind of a huge problem. I think it's something that's easily addressable through, the administrative route. But I want to ask the question, presumably the area is now in a disturbed condition. Are there erosion controls of any sort along the southern edge or the downhill edge of the construction area, to your recollection?
Yeah, I don't recall anything robust. Let's put it that way. Is there anything eroding? No, it's all contained within. So basically, sure. This is a high point where I'm running the hand, but that doesn't stop something major from going in that direction. So what I would say is that at a minimum, after discussions tonight, we should at least put an erosion control barrier through that section just to keep the process honest. And I have no problem seeing to it that that's done tomorrow. Sorry that it's not already there.
Thank you. I don't mean to steal the show here. Anybody on the commission with questions or comments that they'd like to make?
What are we actually asking for? I mean, are you supposed to come back with an RDA or NOI to do the pool, or what's the?
I know one was done. I had asked Melissa about that. Did she have an RDA with a pool on it? And she indicated today that there wasn't one. I don't have a problem doing that. If that's what you'd like, I could be available for that meeting on December 9th to do that, to just bring full closure to this item.
We do have an outstanding order of conditions that we have the ability to, well, there's a formal process of amendment, which is, takes a lot of work. There's also, for minor changes, we can do an administrative amendment to it, which simply requires a vote by the commission. And at our last meeting, we discussed for some of the issues on the site that would be probably the route that we would take, especially when there's an outstanding order. I would suggest that addressing the same project, the same area with an RDA where an order is already in effect may be a little maybe kind of duplicating efforts. I'm sorry, Carl.
Yeah, can I just, I'm following what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. The only thing we would definitely need is, I think, would be to formalize the existence of the pool in a drawing. So we have a drawing of it, so we can compare it to the certificate of completion that they are the same, right? I mean.
You get an as-built from us when it's done, yes, and I will assure you that it's going to show it in the same position that I'm showing it to you this evening, because that's based upon a ground survey that we did.
Right. Will it not show up until we get the request for the certificate of completion, or will you submit the drawing before then?
Well, I have submitted it now, so what I would be prepared to do is come to you for the December 9th meeting with a request for a formal amendment, so it's on the agenda as such, versus tonight's, I presented it to you this evening as informational. Melissa had asked me to update the commission, so that's really the purpose of tonight's meeting.
Can I ask a question? Peter, is the pool in existing lawn?
If I went back to the original plan when the Garfields were there, yes, that was lawn.
So I guess my point on that is a pool is an minor exempt use in existing lawn through the Wetlands Protection Act. So I know we have complete other issues there, but
it's just not exempt under the bylaw.
Oh, that's where I'm wrong. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not trying to belittle this, and I think there's obviously a process. We should follow it. It just didn't seem to me to make sense to come to you and ask all of that in one event. So tonight was really just to show you what's on the ground, where we're at, and I'll come back and ask you for it formally. And I'd be prepared to do that on the 9th. And I would say to you that it is not much of an encroachment, and it was in an area that was already altered. So.
You indicated a little while ago, Peter, that you will pass along the request for erosion controls to be installed at that southern edge there. I understand there have been no releases to date, and that's great, but we've gotten some wacky weather lately, and there's every reason to think it'll continue. And you're talking about, a week from now, possibly even another nor'easter. It would be great to see some sort of erosion control in place there to just in case,
Yeah, I'll assure you it'll be in there tomorrow, and I'll give Melissa evidence of that. So.
Great. Just to sort of recap here, is everybody on board with handling this as an administrative amendment? I will say that I am. I see some heads nodding yes. Okay, so it sounds okay. So we're all on the same page there, and it sounds like you'll be able to attend our December 9th meeting with a formal request for an administrative amendment, and
yes.
We'll be able to handle it there.
Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Any further questions or comments from the commission? Okay. There's only one attendee in the public, but I'll open it up. If anyone in the public wishes to offer any comments or ask questions, please use the raise hand function and we'll promote you right up. And it looks like no. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. I didn't see the hand up. Please go ahead.
No. I'm here just for support for Peter. As you know, this is a project that's near and dear to my heart since I worked on putting it together and saving the building with John to make sure the community got the benefit out of it, and it remained a wonderful parcel of land and a building within the community. And I can tell you, yes, the pool was discussed when we were doing the original filing with the town to get all the conservation approval and put everything through historic. And Peter, I do believe there had been erosion control out back there at one point. They might have cleaned it up as most of the construction had ended, but John will get that out there tomorrow.
So this isn't a public hearing. We don't need to continue or anything like that, but I think we have a plan going forward, and we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was going to stick around if you're going to discuss stormwater, only because I'm a booster of where I hope you might go with this. So I'll stay if you want to bring me in. You can bring me back in because I want to help Melissa.
We would love to get the input from you, Peter. The only reason why we might not tonight is that Mark Pasamato is not here. And I really feel like he ought to be, a part of the discussion. But this has been an item on our agenda now for the last 3 or 4 meetings. And whenever we have everyone in attendance, we do talk about it. And if you'll be here in 3 weeks, we'd love to hear your input on it. We're trying to come up with some changes that, protect the commission's interests and also make things less burdensome on applicants. And I think we are heading in that direction. We'd love to get your input.
All right, good. So I'll be prepared on the 9th, and I'll also and Melissa, I told you I had those docs, but I didn't get them to you. I will find a way to get them in time so you can distribute them.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay. Have a good night. Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right. Approval of the 2022 calendar and deadlines.
Oh, very exciting. It's that time of year. I'll bring it up for anyone interested. So this is what our 2022 calendar looks like. Still the same amount of meetings. First Thursday in December. Thursday in January, and then every 3 weeks after that.
Sounds great.
I think I got all the holidays, so hopefully, obviously we'll adjust if need be, but this is what the general calendar will be. So if it looks good to you guys, I'd love to get it up on the website and send it out to all our engineers that we typically deal with, so they have forewarning.
Perfect.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Melissa.
Okay.
It's very hard changing that Excel spreadsheet by one day.
It's hard to keep track of the dates, though. It's confusing.
Especially this time of year, because it's always like, I don't know when that deadline is.
So the next item, the SMP bylaw and regs update, I really do think Mark needs to be a part of that. So I think we have to, unless anyone has anything they just need to get out there right now, maybe we'll put that off until the 9th.
Yes, especially since he has more experience than all of us combined.
Yeah.
Did Melissa said the other day that he's been on the commission for 32 years, is that right?
Yeah, 31, 32 years.
31, 32.
Wow.
We should get him
I
a
think
medal.
it is what all of us combined. It's more than all of us combined.
Yeah.
Wow.
If anyone is interested, I did do just a really brief flow chart that I put on the Dropbox in that folder, just the difference between the lower and the higher amounts and what those would look like if we have the 2 different processes. So just to kind of take a quick look, it's very short and easy, but might help put things in perspective.
Thank you. All right, so next up, conservation scientist and agent report.
There's not been really any changes on site since the last meeting. I've again tried to reach out to a lot of the contractors for those sites that I know have been finished that have not gotten their COC, especially given that winter is coming soon. It'd be nice to be able to see the ground. So a couple of them, I noticed since even 5 o'clock when I left, I got a couple emails with some as-built on a couple of properties. So we're going to have those for the next meeting. I think the hardest ones I'm trying to track down are the ones on Breakneck and Mill Road and trying to get those kind of wrapped up as much as possible. It's the same contractor, so hopefully, I know Peter has been on them too, trying to get those done. But otherwise, I think Ayabella off Mount Vickery is really the only bigger project that is going. They have 2 house lots they're working on right now. And then yesterday I did the pre-construction meeting for 192 Woodland that we approved not too long ago, which is going to be that 2 house lot. So I reminded them about the vernal pool certification. And then there was one other, and the restoration planting. So we should probably be seeing those shortly. And then for the dump, we are moving a little bit quicker than expected and a lot cheaper, which is nice. So TRC submitted our draft solid waste assessment plan to DEP for comments. I haven't heard back from James McQuaid, so I'm following up with him. So hopefully, pending any comments that we get from that, we would have a finalized plan that the commission can review and comment and, make any changes that we think are necessary. And then the step after that would be another proposal, probably from TRC and possibly other companies, depending on what the overall cost would be in terms of the implementation of the solid waste assessment, which would entail submitting the notice of intent, doing the vegetation clearing, and then doing the exploratory testing and figuring out what the heck we need to do in the future. So we're making pretty good progress. I'm pretty happy. It's right now just waiting for comments from DEP. So once we get that, we will be on to the next step and trying to find the next round of money.
Okay, can I ask you a question, Melissa?
Yes.
Is TRC or anybody wrestling with the fact that, because if you look at the layout, this extends out into some private property and it goes into some wetlands, and is anybody wrestling with that?
Yeah, so I did talk to our new council before we even talked with TRC, once we got that survey plan back, about what our process would be. And they said, once we get to this next phase, once the assessment plan is finalized, then we will have council discussing with the homeowner and trying to overcome that hoop. But the wetlands aspect, that's where the notice of intent comes in. First, it's just the borings, and kind of the investigating aspect of it and any soil or otherwise testing that they do on site. But then, we're going to have most likely BBW impacts. I think it's going to be kind of hard to ignore just on the access to the site. So I think it's something that we will need to discuss definitely more once we get to kind of a couple more steps down the road.
We need, because they're going to clear they're going to clear it and grub it, right? That's the intent, right? In order to do the borings.
Not the whole site, most likely. Probably just a path in.
A notice of intent for that, right?
Yes. Yep.
Did that. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So, Melissa, I understand the town's gotten quite a bit of money from the the COVID relief fund or something. Is this something we can attack and try and grab some money?
In terms of ARPA funds, so CARES is over. We have no more funding from CARES. That has ended. I can
like
talk.
5 million we got.
Yeah, I think that's ARPA funds. So I can talk with the town administrator and see in the town accountant to see if that would be anything. But I would most likely say no, but there's always the possibility.
It's my understanding that it was money allocated for supporting the town. It probably had jobs related to it, spending it back to get it in the economy. Why isn't this fit right into that ballywhack?
I can definitely look. I've also been looking at like our MVP program that we just got a part of. If we can kind of spin the outcome in a climate resilient way, we might be able to do that. And that's a 75 from the state and 25% match by the town. So that's kind of a good chunk of change if we could go for that aspect too.
Right.
So we're definitely looking.
Is that the funding we're just talking about is the ARP funding?
Yeah. ARPA, yeah.
The select board on Tuesday voted to establish a committee to go through and prioritize or look at what the projects are and prioritize it. And we talked about it at master plan last night because we've obviously got a whole list of in effect projects through the goals and recommendations that have been put together, including cleaning the dump. Lisa Braccio has asked me to send her that so that she can use that they can use that as a kind of a key document for prioritizing monies at the at that subcommittee. So I'll make sure that one's highlighted because I'm going to highlight the ones that I think are the most, logical to be submitting for that. So I'll make sure that I
Awesome.
highlight that one.
Perfect. Thank you. And then in other business, one thing that I did jump in on the end of when we were talking earlier about not removal in terms of 15 Woodland, but I missed part of the Suasco watershed, one of their SISMA meetings. They were talking about, I forget which town has kind of a blanket knotweed and invasive removal notice of intent that they kind of have pre-filled out for people. So I just got, I think, the email yesterday with all those documents. So I was planning to review those, and maybe we can use that in the future and tweak for, kind of what we've been hoping to do. So that was I was sad to miss it. I had to go on another meeting, but it's recorded, so I can probably send it to you all too if you're interested as well.
Great. If you wouldn't mind forwarding me a link, I'd like to.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
And then let's see, my second to last thing, because we still have to prove 15 Woodland, is unexpectedly today I had a attorney call about 19 Orchard Road. And this is, they have an open order of conditions. The individual NOI and order for the specific lot has been closed as well as all of the other specific lot order of conditions. Just the subdivision overall has been open. So I reached out to the DPW today, and I've got the as-built plan for Orchard Road, the review from the town consultants, and the acceptance of the road. So I think this was just kind of one of those minor things that didn't go as planned in terms of closing out every box. So because the house is closing shortly, I would ask the commission to issue a full COC for 290-686. And this is kind of in conjunction with what we've been doing recently for these old subdivisions where the road wasn't closed out, but it was accepted, it was reviewed, and all the individual NOIs were closed out. It's showing up on all of Orchard.
How far back does this go?
2006, this was Grasslands 2. I don't know if that means anything to anyone. It doesn't to me, but you never know. Let me see. 686 was, 2000. Yeah, 2000s. 2001. Mm-hmm.
All right. Unless anyone feels otherwise, I think just a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for the Orchard Road subdivision.
So moved. Oh, great.
In a second.
Second.
Watson?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Geyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
All right. And last thing, these are the findings for 15 Woodland Road. And then obviously some of these will be put again in the special conditions in their appropriate place, like the invasive species management plan and the construction entrance.
All right. Anyone have any edits they'd like to see? And is there a motion to issue order of conditions as written here?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Watson?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Geyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yep.
Smith?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I got. I'm done.
All right.
Can I just ask a quick question? I know it just made me think about it when we looked at the 2022 meetings and the deadline submissions. What's the timeline for getting this this document, an updated plan from the Ken's Foods people?
For Ken's Foods, it sounded like they were going to get it next week.
Okay, can we, I hate to put more on you, Melissa,
No.
kind of really keep on them about that? Because I have to say, I just lose the plot every time we start having that conversation. I find it incredibly difficult to follow what they're proposing, discussing, and, you know, and I think I missed one of the early meetings, but this feels like this has been going on for so long. I really feel very strongly, we just got to get them to close it out. Or, you know, politely say, I'm not sure if we can do this, politely say, I'm sorry, we just can't table this until you come back with what we've asked for you.
Yeah, what I was planning to do Friday or Monday morning was kind of outline all the things that I've had kind of ticked off between Lucas's peer review letter as well, because there's a couple things that they still have not responded to. And, you know, main thing, I think, being that replication planting area. I know when we were out, Mark Arnold from Goddard was discussing about how, you know, they wanted to get it done now, but even though they wanted to get it done now, I'd still never seen a planting plan, who the contractor would be, et cetera, and a timeline. So I thought that they would at least try and get in front of that in hopes that the commission would be open to, you know, allowing them to do some work. So that's my goal, to kind of go through and remind them of the itemized details that they're supposed to be updating and submitting, so that, you know, both Fuss and O'Neill and Lucas Environmental can do a full review of a complete plan set with all the documents they need instead of one by one. You know, and it's kind of what I reiterated to them when we got the as-built was, you know, I was kind of expecting that itemized list of what was outstanding versus what was completed and what needed to be done. But I agree with you, and that's definitely on my list. So I will be sure to get that out by Monday morning.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more question for you, Melissa. I hate to ask it, but Chestnut Hill Farm.
Chestnut Hill Farm. I think yesterday got a newest draft that the trustees have sent back to me after my last comments. So I'm hoping that I haven't had a time to get to it today, but probably tomorrow or Monday, looking over that and giving it to see, make sure they included my last comments. It was mostly, you know, they had taken out some language about trails and having the commission approve, and you know, there's some tricky wording, and I don't think intentionally on their part, but making it clear of what, you know, things have come up from the commission in the past of you can't close the trails for more than 3 days, period, unless you get approval from us first. And then having them include the updated square footage table. They were kind of lacking on the bird, nesting bird habitat section, which they had before. So, you know, just asking them if they were still doing that or whatnot. So I will definitely kind of hopefully have those last comments back to them, and then it'll be more ready for the commission to view, because at this point it just wasn't quite worth you guys looking at it, because I kind of knew what you were going to say back.
I'm thrilled to hear that that they're actually working on this now. Thank you for pushing them on that.
Yeah, it's been a little slow, but we're getting there. And I think Kristen from SVT just did her CR monitoring site visit yesterday while I was doing some other site visits. So I'm going to follow up with her too and include her to take a quick look at the management plan once it's ready to.
Okay, and I know you a lot of this is out of your hands, but do you have a feel for when we may be seeing a draft of the management plan?
I would love to say by the end of next week, if not the week after, because I don't think there's much more that to change that is obvious, at least. I think the rest of it needs to be an active discussion between the commission and the trustees.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Or does anyone want to make everyone's favorite motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'll clarify that's a motion to adjourn. Yeah. Watson?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Geyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Willis?